The locations in Maine, the physical landscape in Maine is like a fairy tale landscape. There's the rocks and the moss and the ocean and the cliffs and the mountains and the fog.
Bill Dunn, the location manager, did a spot-on job at finding some remote yet close by, only an hour within our centrally located studios here in Ellsworth.
Mary and the other principals fell in love with the house that was going to be the Creed house.
It was the perfect house for this movie. It just was right out of the book.
It had so many of the elements we wanted for that house, but it was missing a tree with a tire swing. They decided the best case scenario was to go with the house they love and move a mature tree to plant in this yard and put their tire swing on there.
There's still a spot in the lawn down there. It was about 5 in the morning they put that tree in, but it didn't make it. It just, you know, we tried to save it. We watered it, but it had to come down.
Betty and Charlie Lewis were two of the finest people that I met. They're good Maine people and concerned about their property, but totally amenable to just as long as you put it back the way it was, we'll be okay with that.
At the time, we were running a paint and wallpaper store in Ellsworth, but friends were visiting, and they approached him on the porch, and he sent them to Ellsworth to talk to us. They would have moved us out of town someplace. We moved across the street. We were living in here. And we said, no, we'll just move over there and live in the little house.
She still did her laundry in the ranch because she could access that. So we'd see her, any point she'd say, I'm coming out, you better stop rolling. And she'd be coming out with her laundry out back.
They rebuilt, you know, they rented that place in Ellsworth, and they rebuilt the kitchen. They had every detail, even the nick out of a door or something.
We built all the interiors up about 4 feet, and the reason for that is because we had stairs that had to look like they were going downstairs. So we built it raised up off of the floor to accommodate that. When we weren't working on the big house, we were in this studio space reconstructing what was matching what was inside the family's home, trying to match it, to every detail. The designers had extremely detailed plans of exactly how it should look, so it looked exactly like it.
I remember thinking it was so cool how Judd's house was fake. It was actually a set built onto another house so that it could be across the street from the Creed house.
We couldn't find two houses that I liked that were in that proximity. So we built a facade in front of this little sort of modern ranch house that was across the street from the Creed's house.
We have this little house that we need to build this lovely Victorian around. So the first thing is we laid out kind of the footprint of it, and then we brought in a utility truck that planted telephone poles in a row along the front, which was going to be part of the structure that would kind of stabilize everything we built around it. Then we also, on top of the small house, we built this structure. They were like big platforms that were lifted down onto the roof. And that was the framework for sort of holding the sides together, because it wasn't even a four-sided house. It was really a couple of facades that looked like a house. Once those telephone poles were in place, then we started building the house, framing it out very much like you would a real house, except without necessarily the foundation. So we would build it up with the studs and get the whole framework with 2x4s like any other house. But one of the big differences we had was taking the sheetrock, which normally goes on the inside of a house, and we put it on the outside of the structure so that we started creating a fire barrier between that structure and the little house that was inside. And then once that sheetrock was on, then we finished the house to make it look like it was, a real house. We did real shingles and trim and finished it out. So from the outside, it looked quite real.
I mean, if you've read the book Pet Sematary, Stephen does describe the house as having undergone a transformation, as if the evil spirits from the Pet Cemetery have, like,